Today I'm going to show you how to make this Easter hidden surprise mini egg cake. It is a 6-inch vanilla sponge cake filled with vanilla buttercream. It's got loads of mini eggs in the centre, so when you cut into it you get a Easter chocolate surprise covered in our speckled effect buttercream and mini eggs on top. If you want to see how I make this, then keep watching. Okay, so let's get baking. I have got 4 layers of 6-inch sponge cake here which I've already made, and they are completely cool and ready to decorate. If you want to know how I make my sponge cakes, I will leave a card and a link in the description, and I've also got some buttercream. Again, I'll leave a card in the description so you can see how I make my buttercream as well. So the first thing we're going to do is colour this buttercream, and I have got a baby blue colour here which I think is just the perfect Easter colour. I feel like pastel colours are really good for Easter, like pastel blues, pinks, purples, yellows, basically mini egg colours. But I don't know if there's a blue mini egg now I'm saying that. I don't know. So this is gel food colouring, which is best for buttercream, so I'm gonna swirl that in and then give it a good mix until this turns a lovely baby blue colour. And it's always better to start off with a little bit of food colouring and add more as you go, because obviously you can add but you can't take away. Especially with gel food colouring, a little bit goes a long way. Okay, I'm happy with that. It's kind of like a pale bluey green colour, which I think is perfect for Easter. So I'm going to pop that to one side, and then we are going to move on to our cakes. So this is a surprise centre cake, so when you cut into it there's going to be loads of chocolate coming out of it. But to do that we need to make space for all of our lovely chocolate to go. So I'm going to take the middle layers, then I've got a cookie cutter, and I'm going to try and centre it as best I can and take the centre out just like so, and do the same thing with this one. And then with these bits of cake, you could make a tiny little cake if you wanted to. A little, I imagine this is about 4 inches. You could break it up and make cake pops with it. There's loads of stuff you can do, or you can just eat it. There's nothing wrong with just eating leftover cake. Then we're gonna grab our cake stand. I'm going with the blue theme with this. For this, you're gonna need a palette knife and ideally a cake scraper as well. I always like to put a little bit of buttercream on the base because it's gonna help our bottom layer stick. So grab the bottom layer and press it down and try and make it as central as you can. And then we're gonna get some of our buttercream, put it on the cake, and then with our palette knife, we're just gonna smooth it around. And if you've got too much like I have, you can just put it back into your bowl. So I'm just gonna smooth this out. Doesn't need to be perfect, just fairly level. And then we are going to grab one of our cake layers for the center. And again, we're gonna try and make sure this is as central as it can be. And then we are gonna put some buttercream around the edge of this. Again, don't worry if it goes down the sides. It's going down the sides anyway when we decorate it. So I'm just gonna flatten this down, and then I'm going to go around the inside as well just to get any excess away. Then we go in with our next one, and then at this point we fill it with lots of chocolate. So I've got a mixture of Cadbury mini eggs here and Smartie mini eggs here as well, and you can fill this with whatever chocolate you want to. And we're just going to fill it up until we have a bit of a base for the next cake layer to sit on. 3 left. I can eat them. We're gonna go round the edge of this. You want to be slightly more careful with this layer, just because you don't want all of your mini eggs to be coated with buttercream. And then again, just flatten it out. You can take any excess off the sides if you've got any. And then we go in with our top layer. And for the top layer, I always flip it upside down, so you have a nice sharp edge for you to put the rest of your buttercream on. Now we move on to the crumb coat. So the crumb coat is literally what it says in the tin. We are gonna put a very light layer of buttercream on this to lock in all the crumbs. So then when we get to the second layer of buttercream, it's all nice and pretty and there's no crumbs in there. So I'm gonna put a big blob on the top and then press this in to the cake and work it down the sides of the cake. So then just let it fall down. Do it this side so you can see. I'm doing this the wrong way, but that's where the camera is. This really doesn't need to be neat at all. It's literally just to lock our crumbs in, and then we're going to smooth it out. So I've got a cake scraper here. You can use a palette knife, but a cake scraper is so much better, and they're relatively cheap to get as well. So the important thing here is that we're going to rest it flat onto the the base, so whether that's the turntable, cake board, cake stand like this. I should move this colouring away from my pink jumper. That is a disaster waiting to happen. So you basically just make sure that it's flat to the base, and then you bring it towards you and hold it firmly, and essentially this stays still and you're moving your turntable or your cake board or your plate or whatever it's on. And then once you've gone around it a couple of times, you can kind of see where all of your gaps are. So then with our palette knife, you can just fill them up. So I've got a tiny one at the bottom there, and you can see I've got crumbs on this, so I'm not going back into the main one. It's okay if you can see the cake through it because it's literally locking the crumbs in, so it doesn't really matter. And then we go around again. And then once you become happy with it, and again, it doesn't need to be perfect, but what you can do is just go around in a longer swoop, and it just creates a bit of a better base. And then we can go in with the top. So there's loads of different ways to do the top. For the crumb coat, I tend to just drag it forward and take the excess off. Drag it forward, remove the excess. And that is how we do our crumb coat. It's how we're going to do the top as well, but for the crumb coat, we're literally just locking the crumbs in. I'm going to put this in the fridge now for at least half an hour to set, and then we'll go over the top with another layer of buttercream. Okay, so this has had about half an hour in the fridge, and if you touch it and it doesn't leave any fingerprint marks, then you know it is ready for the next layer. So we're basically just going to repeat the same process, and we're going to try and make it look nice and pretty all around. So I'm going to put loads on the top first again, and then spread it down. Oh, that went quite quickly. Oh, that's gone quickly as well. Okay. Maybe too much on the top. So I'm going to push it in to the top and then start working it down. I really need to have my camera the other way because I don't usually do it this way. I do it the opposite way. And then we get our cake scraper again, and we do exactly the same thing. So keep it flat on the board and push it round towards us. Once you get to a stage where you're getting a bit more happy with it, you kind of want to grab all the way around, hold it against it and pull it in one smooth motion. And it gives you a more smooth base rather than having lots of lines in it. Now for the top this time, I'm going to do something different because I want a really nice sharp edge. I'm going to put this in the fridge at this stage and it's going to harden, and then what I'm going to do is grab a sharp knife and go around the edge, and it will create a really nice sharp edge. So I'm going to put this in the fridge for another half an hour. We'll cut the edge off, clean the top, and then we are going to decorate it even more. So once again, my cake is completely cold to the touch and firm to the touch as well. So I've got a sharp knife here, and I'm gonna press it into the top and just very gently glide it around, taking all of the excess off. You want to make sure that your knife is completely flat as well. Just keep going all the way around until you have got it all off. So that gives us a really, really sharp edge. All we need to do now is just clean the top up a little bit. So I'm going back in with my cake scraper and just very gently gliding it along. And you just keep working it until you have got perfectly sharp edge that is nice and clean, just like that. So then what I'm going to do is create a bit of a speckled effect with some melted chocolate. So I've got some melted dark chocolate here, which I've just melted in a microwave. I'm going to put a glove on, and then I've got a paintbrush to do this as well. So you want to make sure that the chocolate isn't piping hot, and then we're going to grab some of our chocolate on the paintbrush and literally flick it on. Now it is going to be messy. It's going to be very, very messy, but it's going to create a really nice speckled effect on the cake. And you can go as big or as little as you want to with this. You can just do very gently for little speckles, or you can go a bit more forcefully and you get kind of drips as well. And then if there's any bits that you feel like have got too much chocolate on, you can just get your palette knife again, just very gently scrape it off just like that, and then just redo the area. Then we want to make sure that we do the top as well. Make sure it's all covered in our little speckled chocolate. I feel like I've got it over the cake, but all over the kitchen and me as well. So I'm happy with that result. It kind of gives us mini egg vibes. So I'm going to clean me and then I'm going to clean the cake stand, the area, and then we'll do some swirls and decorate the top. I've put the rest of the buttercream in a piping bag with a Wilton, I think it's 2D, yeah, 2D nozzle. And I'm going to do some swirls on top. So I always do this in kind of a quadrant. So I do the first swirl like that, and then I go straight opposite it and then do it in quarters. And then you can see how many you can fit between those gaps. I'm going to fit 2 in just about. Move around. And then to fill the gaps around the side, I just go in at a bit of an angle. Just do a tiny little kind of flower like that. And then I have some spare mini eggs. So these are going to go on top as well to go with the mini egg theme. And that is our mini egg, mini cake complete. So very much an Easter cake. We've got the speckled pastel effect around the outside, covered in mini eggs, and then we are gonna find the surprise in the middle as well. So let's cut into it and see what it looks like. And it's gonna be a little bit hard to cut into because obviously you've just got loads and loads of mini eggs. So just work your way down slowly, kind of give it a bit of a wiggle if you need to, just to get past it. Moment of truth. Ta-da! And then as you can see in there is all our mini eggs that are starting to fall out of the cake, as it should. That's exactly how it should be. Obviously your cake slice looks a little bit strange because you've got a big gap out of it. But if you're going to have a gap in a cake, then surely you want a gap that's just full of chocolate, right? This is great for kids. Kids will absolutely love this when they cut into it and see all the chocolate pour out of the middle. I really hope you've enjoyed this video. Happy Easter, and I'll see you next week for another video. Thanks for watching. Bye!